The British people sent a clear message in the referendum. There can be no question that recent levels of immigration motivated a large part of the vote. But concerns about immigration did not just spring out of nowhere. 20 years ago, levels of immigration weren't really an issue in British politics. As net migration has risen, that has changed. I've seen why, as a Member of Parliament for the beautiful towns of Hastings and Rye. Thank you, Hastings. Hastings is a seaside town that has experienced relatively high level of migration over the past 2 decades. That's led to legitimate concerns around the pressures put on housing, public services and wages. The Prime Minister recognised this and took action to reduce net migration in the areas she could when she was in my position. And now as Home Secretary, it is my responsibility to do the same and to make sure people's concerns are addressed. As you know, the Conservative Party was elected on a manifesto commitment to reduce net migration to sustainable levels. That means tens of thousands, not the hundreds of thousands. And my commitment to you today is that I'll be working with colleagues across government to deliver this. But I am also here to level with you, Conference. This will not happen overnight. Leaving the EU is just one part of the strategy. We have to look at all sources of immigration if we mean business. Now, a lot has improved since 2010, from annual net migration under Labour rocketing almost fivefold. The Conservative-led coalition stopped 875 bogus colleges bringing in overseas students, tackled abuse of student visas, and reformed the family system. And I would like to recognise my predecessor's actions in driving these changes through. Since then, she has been freed from the shackles of the coalition. Without Nick Clegg and Vince Cable there to hold her back, she passed new Conservative legislation to make sure that immigrants heading to these shores are going to make a positive contribution. And my job is to press on with implementing this legislation. So today I'm announcing that from December, landlords that knowingly rent out property to people who have no right to be here will be committing a criminal offence. They could go to prison. Furthermore, from December, immigration checks will be a mandatory requirement for those wanting to get a licence to drive a taxi. And from next autumn, banks will have to do regular checks to ensure they are not providing essential banking services to illegal migrants. Money drives behaviour, and cutting off its supply will have an impact. However, the difference between those arriving and those leaving is still too substantial. I believe immigration has brought many benefits to the nation. It has enhanced our economy, our society, and our culture. That is why I want to reduce net migration while continuing to ensure we attract the brightest and the best to this country. Because it's only by reducing the numbers back down to sustainable levels that we can change the tide of public opinion. So once again, immigration is something we can all welcome. So I can announce today we will shortly be consulting on the next steps needed to control immigration. We will be looking across work and study routes. This will include examining whether we should tighten the test companies have to take before recruiting from abroad. British businesses have driven the economic recovery in this country, with employment at record levels. However, we still need to do more, so all British people get the opportunities they need to get on in life. The test should ensure people coming here are filling gaps in the labour market, not taking jobs that British people could do. But it's become a tick-box exercise, allowing some firms to get away with not training local people. We won't win in the world if we don't do more to upskill our workforce. It's not fair on companies doing the right thing, so I want us to look again at whether our immigration system provides the right incentives for businesses to invest in British workers. We will also look for the first time at whether our student immigration rules should be tailored to the quality of the course and the quality of the educational institution. Now, I'm proud that we have world-leading centres of academic excellence. It's a testament to our country's proud history and our top universities' ability to evolve. But the current system allows all students, irrespective of their talents and the university's quality, favourable employment prospects when they stop studying. While an international student is studying here, their family members can do any form of work. And foreign students, even those studying English language degrees, don't even have to be proficient in speaking English. So we need to look at whether this one-size-fits-all approach really is right for the hundreds of different universities providing thousands of different courses across the country. And we need to look at whether this generous offer for all universities is really adding value to our economy. I'm passionately committed to making sure our world-leading institutions can attract the brightest and the best. But a student immigration system that treats every student in a university as equal only punishes those we should want to help. So our consultation will look at what more can we do to support our best universities and those that stick to the rules to attract the best talent, while looking at tougher rules for students on lower quality courses. This isn't about pulling up the drawbridge. It's about making sure students that come here come to study. We're consulting because we want to work with businesses and universities to get the next stage of our reforms right. But I also come here today with a warning to those that simply oppose any steps to reduce net migration. This government will not waver in its commitment to put the interests of the British people first. Reducing net migration back down to sustainable levels will not be easy, but I'm committed to delivering it on behalf of the British people. So work with us, not against us, and we'll better control immigration and protect our economy. Systems evolve. We have to adapt. Our consultation will do that. While we are still members of the EU, there are things we can get on with immediately. And there are things which the EU is currently considering, which we can support, particularly those measures to tackle crime and terrorism. Many of them were our idea in the first place. So we're going to overhaul our legislation to make it easier to deport criminals and those who abuse our laws. By setting out in legislation what is in the fundamental interests of the UK, we will make it easier to deport EU criminals, aligning their fortunes more closely with those from outside the EU. And, going one step further, for the first time, we will deport EU nationals that repeatedly commit so-called minor crimes in this country. So-called minor crime is still crime. Its pain is still felt deeply by victims. Well, those criminals will face being banned from coming back to the country from between 5 and 10 years. That delivers on a very clear manifesto pledge. And today I can tell you that I will deliver on another. Conference, you might have heard that Jeremy Corbyn wants the government to bring back a migration fund Gordon Brown introduced after Labour let immigration spiral out of control. Jeremy Corbyn seems to think it's a substitute for tackling action against immigration. Well, if there's one thing we don't need, it's policy advice from the man who almost bankrupted Britain and the man that wants to do it all over again. Labour's fund was ineffective and focused funding on migrants rather than the pressures caused by migration. Money was spent on translation services rather than English lessons. Councils were given money to promote recycling rather than the support they needed to ease housing pressures. So instead, we will deliver on our manifesto commitment and set up a new £140 million controlling migration fund designed specifically to ease the pressures on public services in areas of high migration. And at the same time, it will implement strategies to reduce illegal immigration. The fund will build on work we have done to support local authorities, to stop giving housing benefit to people that have no right to be in the country, to reduce rough sleeping by illegal immigrants, and to crack down on the rogue landlords whose illegal migrants are housed in the most appalling conditions. And for those that are here legally, we will provide more English language support, and with it, the obvious benefits of being able to join the way of life in the country they have chosen to call home. So, conference, today I'm setting out how we will get immigration under control. In the long term, by reducing the numbers that come from Europe. In the mid-term, by reforming the student and work route of entry. And in the short term, taking action to help communities affected by high levels of immigration and stopping people coming here that threaten our security. As your Home Secretary, my primary concern is protecting our way of life and delivering the security measures we require to ensure this. In a fast-moving world, we need to move in concert with new technologies and the threats they can pose, adapting our responses rapidly. I want people who seek to damage our way of life to know that we are tireless in supporting the police and the security and intelligence services that keep us safe. The people who do these jobs work long hours in challenging conditions, often with little praise or thanks, frequently at risk to themselves and for all our benefit. This is the definition of public service, a service that we should all be extremely grateful for.